can see in the diagram that we are having here, a beam, it consists of a beam which bears other parts. The beam is very heavy, it bears an increase, it also increases the disc penetration, that is the weight of the disc helps the disc, the weight of the beam helps the disc in penetrating the soil so that it can cut it and then pulverize it properly. Then it also is also made up of a standard which bears the disc and is attached to the beam, just as what we are having here. And it's also made up, the disc plow is also made up of a set of discs, that is the disc that cause the furrow slice and partially turns it over. The disc might be serrated or might be fully circular. Then it's also made up of a scraper which keeps the disc clean and free of earth. That is, the scraper helps in removing the soil from sticking to the disc. Then it is also made up of the furrow wheel, which is having weight, and the weight assists the disc in penetration of the soil, and it also helps in stabilizing the implement and prevent it from overturning. Now look at the advantages of disc plow. It is adapted to extremely rough and hard surfaces, which is unlike the moldboard plow. It deals with stickier soil better than the moldboard plow, and it is suitable for peaty and organic soil where moldboard plow cannot perform. And then the fourth advantage is that it is capable of overcoming obstacles, thereby eliminating the chances of breakage, due to the fact that the disc is made of hardened steel. Then the disadvantage is that plowing is rough, leaving some ground uncut. That is unlike the moldboard plow, where the plowing is always fine and there is complete overturning of the soil. And the other disadvantage is that it does not bury crop residues and weeds completely. Now we'll be looking at harrows, which is a secondary tillage implement. The plows are primary tillage implements, while the harrows are secondary tillage implements. What I mean by primary is that the first pulverizing or tillage operation to be carried out is called primary, while other tillage operations are being called secondary. Now we'll be looking at harrows. Harrows are also known as cultivators. Harrows, also known as cultivators, are secondary tillage implements, which are used for further breaking up of the clods and the furrow sizes to form tilt, that is fine soil texture. It is also used for the destruction of weeds, mixing of fertilizer with soil, covering of seeds, and also to aerate the soil for optimum crop root growth. The common ones are, and the first one that we're having here is a springtime harrow. It consists of a rectangular beam in which strong pointed and vertical stalks are attached. The vertical stalks are bent forward to enable it to till the soil and withstand obstacles within the soil. Now, we'll be looking at the disc harrow. Well, we've actually dealt with the spring harrow, and now we'll be moving to the disc harrow, that is the types of harrows that we're having. The disc harrow consists of a set of large concave discs whose edges may be plain or serrated. The most common design are the tandem disc, in which the discs are arranged in 4 gangs. Just like what we are having there, a set of discs on an harrow is called a gang. The harrow is made up of the handle, the drawbar, the scraper, the disc, and the wheel. Now, the next implement we'll be looking at here is the ridger. It's also a secondary tillage implement. We can call it a secondary tillage implement. The ridger are implements used for making ridges. The 2 common types are the disc and the mobile ridger. The disc ridger, which is like the disc plow, is preferred to the mobile ridger in the tropics due to the advantage mentioned earlier about the disc plow, that is being able to overcome obstacles. In operation, the disc ridger makes ridges by each disc, throwing or making out half of the ridge, which is completed by another half thrown out by an opposite disc. That is, the discs are like facing each other, and when the first one makes the half and the opposite one makes the other half, it makes a complete ridge. And when we now have 5 discs, that is a disc ridger with 5 discs, will produce 2.5 ridges in one run, which means that since we know that a disc produces half a ridge, now 5 will now give us, if we divide 5 by 2 to give us 2.5, which means for a disc, for a ridger that has 5 discs, it's going to produce 2.5 ridge in one run. And when it is returning, it will make a total of, it will make another 2.5 ridge, which will give us a total of 5 ridges. Now we'll now be looking at planters. Planters are power operated implements. Well, we have a manual one when we are using our cutlass and other form of semi-manual planters. Planters are used to plant seeds, stem cuttings, tuber, or seedling in the soil. In general, planters open the furrow and drop the seed in the open furrow. That is, they open the soil, they drop the seed or seedling or stem cutting in the furrow, and then cover up the seed, except for broadcast where the seed is being dropped on the soil. Planters may be classified into the first one is a row or precision planters or transplanter. This sow or planted material or seed are specified inter-row and intra-row spacing. Such planters are specified to cross but may be adapted to a related crop by interchanging some parts. That is, if, just like let's take a cereal for example, if a planter is meant for maize, we can still adapt it for planting of either sorghum or millet. But the only thing is just that it might just be the metering device that we are going to change. Then there are other type of planter we are having is the drill. These are designed to put the correct number of seed into the soil at the required depth and inter-row spacing. Examples are rice, grass, and legume planters. Then the third type that we are having is the broadcaster. This type of planter plants seed by distributing them randomly over the soil without maintaining inter-row or intra-row spacing. For example, the vegetable planter. This type of planter only spreads the seeds over the soil, and then which can be later being harrowed back into the soil so that the soil can cover it. The major components of a planter includes the following. We have the hopper, and then which holds the planting material, which can be a seed or the stem, or the stem cutting or the seedling. Then it also is also made up of the furrow opener, which opens the planting point in the soil. And then we have the seed meter, which leads from the hopper into the seed tube, and also regulates. The function is just to regulate the seeds. They regulate the release of the seeds sown per point. That is, it helps us if we are to plant or sow maybe 2 seeds per point. Is a measuring device that actually controls that won't just allow the seed just to pour inside the seed inside the planting point that we actually want to plant inside. Then the fourth component is the furrow covering device. You know, we have the furrow opener. After the furrow opener have opened the soil and the seed meter have dropped the soil, it's now a furrow covering device that covers the seed with soil after planting. Then we have the roller. The roller is a component which presses and frames the soil over the seed. Now with that we've completed, we are through with the planter. Now we'll be dealing with the harvester. These are implements used for harvesting crops. From what the names imply, harvesting. Harvesters, that is, we are harvesting. So they are implements used in harvesting crops. They include mowers, which is being used for harvesting of grasses, then the forage harvester, and then the combined harvester. We have other types of harvesters, just like the one being used in harvesting citrus, orange, and the likes. And we have those being used for harvesting of tubers and roots. But the one we'll be looking at here will include mower, forage harvester, and a baler, and then the combined harvester. Now I'll be looking at it one after the other. The mower, this is used for harvesting of grass and legumes for making hay, and it's also used for mowing lawns. The cutting mechanism may be a fring bar, flail type, or the rotary cutter. Some are tractor mounted while others are self-propelled, just as we can see here. And then we have the forage harvester. It's a tractor mounted piece of implement with a plant cutting and chopping unit. A trailer normally operates beside the tractor for collecting the chop forage. Now the third one is the hay baler, just as you can see here. It is an implement required in the various stages of hay making. The principal parts are the mower, the rake, and then the baler. The mower cuts the grass or legume crop for hay, while the rake gathers the cut grass or legume into a continuous windrow, which can then be picked up